Right, Steve Jones. I can see you've not seen the barber since we spoke to each other a couple of months ago. We were all pretty upbeat, weren't we? But it seems to have been a bit worse than I think most of us anticipated. How's it been for you?
Yeah, it's been a long old time without much work to tide me over. So keeping yourself sane and busy, it's been a bit tricky. And like you say, I think I need the barber quite rapidly. But when it all opens up again, I think getting a seat in the barber would be like getting a seat for the cup final.
No, when we last spoke, you had some lofty plans for this lockdown. I assume you finished writing the book and you've done, you'll learn French CDs 4 to 12. So I assume you're going to write the book in French.
Bonjour. That didn't really happen because, to be honest, I put the CDs in the car, and one of the great things about this lockdown, I filled up my car with diesel in March, and it wasn't until last week that I filled it up. So I spent no money on diesel, but I haven't spent any time in the car, obviously, so I haven't learned any French. The book took a bit of a interesting path because a good mate of mine, Chris Coley, who is Fergal O'Brien's business partner, he is a man who doesn't talk about things, he just does them. And he wrote a sports quiz book of 1,000 questions, 100 rounds of 10 questions. And he did it in about 3 weeks. And I was talking to him and he said, you should do one on racing. And I said, yeah, why not? Yeah, like thinking, well, I'm not so sure about that. But then he started firing me over all these ideas and questions, and I was sort of obliged and locked into it. So I've made a bit of progress in that respect, and it's been quite good because every single person seems to be doing one of these Zoom or Skype quizzes. So I've been surreptitiously taking down notes as people have been asking the questions, and so I've enjoyed doing that. Whether I'll finish it anytime soon, I'm not so sure, but I'm making fair progress at it.
Excellent. Well, let's hope we don't have you don't have too much time to finish it. Are you getting on the list to actually sort of report from the races at all? I know that's a limited ticket now, isn't it? But you got any chance of that, do you think, the forthcoming?
It is. It's not really what I'm doing these days, to be honest. Obviously, my times at the Sun for the last 3 or 4 years when I took over from that role as well as Templegate tipping from Claude Duval, I was on the track every weekend and at the big meetings. But since then, I've got really no cause to be on track. And I saw Graham Clark from the PA was at Kempton yesterday bombing around in his usual style. And I'm hoping that they've managed to at least put some normality in place, that he can have an argument with at least 2 different people a day on track. But whether he'll be able to find them, I'm not so sure. But yeah, like you say, they're only letting certain people on track, and that has obviously an impact on the guys of us that does the punditry on the TV and things like that. But I'm sure that as we go later into the summer and the autumn, then things might start returning to normal. But it's going to be a long old haul.
No, this is a bit bad luck for you, wasn't it? Just before all this started, you went self-employed.
Yeah, not a great time. So I went self-employed sort of end of last summer, early autumn, and that has been decided by the government, by the guy that everyone seems to think is fantastic. Rishi Sunak is the Chancellor, is he? And everyone seems to think he's great because he's handing out the money all left, right and centre. Those of us, I think there's about 3 million of us self-employed who missed out. He said it was 95% coverage at the start, but I think it's nearer 60%. But we've missed out. So we've got a little less opinion of Rishi Sunak. And I think when Rishi Sunak comes to claw back the money that he's been handing out here, there and everywhere, I don't think people will be that keen on him.
And what about talk about clawing back money? Racing started again. So are you going in horns down?
Yeah, I was really quite excited for the comeback, even though it was at Newcastle and then on to Kempton. But I've always been someone throughout. I did Templegate for 10 years, and I thought that if I had to go professional punting, God forbid, because I would be more skint than I am now, I'm sure. But all-weather racing, I think, is something that people maybe look down their nose on still a bit, because I think it's a very, very good punting vehicle, because you're taking certain imponderables out, you're taking the ground out, and there's only a small pool of tracks, and by definition a fairly small pool of horses. So I like the all-weather, but having said that, I haven't backed too many winners yet.
Okay, and finally, what would your stab at normality of sorts, i.e. paying customers returning to the racecourse? What sort of date do you think?
I would say probably somewhere in September. Maybe the Ledger meeting might be a nice point, but obviously that depends on so many factors outside racing that we need to get on top of this dreadful thing, because I think the problem was at the start, none of us could actually believe that something like this could happen. And that when we were still, even as things were going towards the Cheltenham Festival and people were saying it was going to be called off, I was certainly in the camp that thought, wow, it's not going to happen. And even after Cheltenham, I thought it was unlikely to go totally. I thought if they raced behind closed doors for a bit, then it might come back sooner rather than later. But obviously, it was far, far more serious than I gave it credit for.
Yeah, well, here to that. Hopefully, like you say, you'll be right September. I think we'd all take that now, wouldn't we? So anyway, Steve, thanks very much for getting back to us, and hopefully you'll get to see a barber fairly soon.
Yeah, one thing though, Simon, you and I don't seem to have joined the rest of the world in growing a beard.
I can't grow one. I'm even at my age, I don't think I'm man enough. I'm follically challenged on the chops.
I've come across a lot of people, both in person in the village and also in video calls, that really shouldn't have grown a beard. They've gone from being aging quite well to being Uncle Albert, I think.
And on that note, no names mentioned. I thank you very much, and hopefully see you on the turf before too long.
Certainly look forward to it, and I hope you've got a fair way through all those CDs in the background on lockdown, Simon.
With this, the mail order has been going well. I've been adding to them.
Good to speak to you.
You too, Steve. Thanks a lot.